2 months. That's roughly how long science says it takes for a new behavior to become automatic. 66 days on average, according to a well-known University College London habit study, with a wide individual range around that number. So let's call it 68 days for a little bit of margin. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you the exact 68-day protocol that turns you from the guy who's trying with money into the guy for whom being wealthy is the default. No willpower needed on day 69. That's the entire point. By the end of this, you'll have a full 68-day protocol you can start tomorrow morning. Audit, install, identity shift, and the ugly plateau week in the middle where most guys quit. This isn't about motivation. This isn't about mindset. It's about installing the same handful of boring money habits so deeply that being wealthy stops requiring a decision. And in 69 days, you're a different guy on the money side of your life. First, one honest thing about how habits actually form. There's a principle you may have heard. What fires together, wires together. It's a plain language way of describing what happens when you run the same action in the same context over and over. The neural pathway gets reinforced. Eventually, the pathway is so worn in that the behavior happens without you deciding to do it. That's automaticity. And automaticity is the goal. Because here's what almost everybody gets wrong. They think discipline is the end game. It's not. Discipline is the bridge. Discipline is what carries you across from I have to force myself to do this to I just do this now. The wealthy guy is not using more discipline than you. He's using less. His habits run themselves. Yours don't yet. 68 days is roughly how long it takes to close that gap. Phase 1, days 1 through 7. The audit week. And here's the surprise. You don't change anything in these 7 days. Not a single behavior, not one habit. You just watch. For 7 days, you're going to observe honestly what you actually do and think about money. Every purchase, every thought, every time you avoid opening the banking app, every time you buy something to feel better after a bad day, every time you tell yourself, I deserve this, every time you skip the money question because you don't want the answer. Just observe without judging and jot it down. 1 sentence per moment, nothing fancy. Most guys skip this week. They want to go straight to the fixing. That's exactly why the fixing doesn't stick. You cannot rewire a system you refuse to see honestly. If you don't know what your current defaults are, you can't replace them. You can only cover them up with willpower, which runs out in about 11 days. At the end of day 7, you've got a boring, honest picture of how the current version of you actually behaves. Now, and only now, are you ready to install something new? Now, here's the piece nobody says out loud. Most of what happens over the next 60 days is not exciting. If you're expecting a transformation montage, close this video and come back when you're ready for a boring one. The wealthy guys are the ones who found boring beautiful. Keep going. Phase 2, weeks 2 through 4, days 8 through 28. The install phase. This is where you put the actual habits in. 2 rules. First, pick only 2 or 3 habits, not 8, 2 or 3. If you try to install 8 habits at once, you install 0. The brain does not multitask automaticity. It builds 1 pathway at a time, deep, until it holds, and then it moves to the next one. 2 or 3 is the ceiling. Second, every habit gets pinned to a specific trigger. The same time, the same context. Every single day or week. Not when I remember. Not when I feel like it. The trigger is the whole engine. No trigger, no habit, no matter how many videos you watch. Pick from the standard money habit list. Pay yourself first the moment income hits. Automated before you spend a cent. The monthly money hour on the first Saturday morning of every month with a coffee, no phone. Kill 1 recurring bill every quarter on a set date on your calendar. Pick 2 of those, 3 at most, same time, Same trigger. Every time. For 3 weeks straight, all you're doing is running your 2 or 3 habits exactly the same way. No exceptions, no negotiations. You are not judging results. You are running repetitions. The wiring happens through repetitions, not intentions. Phase 3. Weeks 5 through 8. Days 29 through 56. The identity shift. Something interesting starts to happen around day 30. The habit stops feeling like something you're forcing yourself to do. It starts feeling like something you just do, like brushing your teeth. You don't have opinions about brushing your teeth. You don't debate it in the morning. It just happens. That's the shift. And once the behavior gets that quiet, the identity underneath it starts to shift too. On day 1, you are a guy who's trying to save money. By day 40, you catch yourself thinking something new. I'm the guy who invests every month. Not wants to, is. The tense changed. That is the actual rewiring. Automaticity in the behavior, plus a small, quiet upgrade in how you describe yourself to yourself without announcing anything to anyone. Don't tell people what you're doing during this phase. It's fragile. Every time you announce it out loud, you spend a little of the energy that should have gone into the doing. Just run the reps and let the identity update quietly in the background. In 6 weeks, your inner monologue will be talking about money in a completely different tone, and nobody outside your head will notice for another year. Now here's the danger zone. Somewhere around week 6, around day 40, you're going to hit a plateau. This is where most people quit. So I want to describe it precisely because if you know it's coming, you can survive it. At the plateau, nothing feels like it's working. The buzz you had from the first 2 weeks is gone. The habit doesn't feel meaningful anymore. Your bank account doesn't look wildly different. Your life doesn't look wildly different. You start thinking, maybe this whole thing was overhyped. Maybe the guys who wrote these habit books were selling something. Maybe you should try a new approach. Do not touch anything at the plateau. This is exactly the moment the wiring is going deepest. The reason nothing feels dramatic is because the habit is completing the transition from effortful to automatic. And that transition is, by definition, quiet. If it still felt exciting, you'd still be running on willpower. The plateau is the sound of the wiring completing. Push through week 6 with no changes, no additions, no swaps, no dramatic re-strategizing. Just keep running your 2 or 3 habits exactly the same way, 1 more week. That is all you have to do. If you're 23 and listening to this in your car after a shift, wondering whether you actually have the discipline to run 68 days of anything, the next piece is the whole point. Pay attention. Phase 4, day 68, the default takeover. This is the day the switch quietly flips. Not with fireworks, it just gets quiet. You realize you haven't had to think about whether to run the habit in a week. It just runs. And whatever behavior was replaced, the impulse purchase, the I'll start next month thought, the avoiding of the banking app, is quietly gone. The version of you that was competing against these defaults on day 1 doesn't exist anymore. He was replaced slowly, boringly, 1 repetition at a time, over about 2 months. He didn't lose a fight. He just got outnumbered by the new pathways. And here's the thing, nobody tells you. The identity is now stable enough that adding the next habit is much easier. You've built the base. Day 68 through 136, if you want to run it again, is another 2 or 3 habit round, then another. That's how the wealthy guys actually built the stack you're jealous of. So look, the whole point of this video is simple. Wealth is not a decision you make once. It's a default you install. And defaults take about 2 months to set. Not 2 years, not 2 decades, 2 months. 66 days on average. Call it 68 for margin. The version of you competing on day 1 of this protocol is not the version competing on day 69. That is the entire mechanism. Every wealthy guy you can name is running some stack of automatic money behaviors that he installed at some point in exactly this way. One round of 2 or 3 habits at a time over about 2 months until the habit was invisible and the identity had updated, and the next round could start. Start today, not tomorrow. Today, you begin the audit week. No changes, just watching. Come back to this video on day 69 and revisit the notes you wrote on day 1. You will not recognize the guy who wrote them. If this one hit, subscribe. I put one of these out every week.